I've been reading body language for around 6 years now, and it's really changed my perspective on people. So in this video, we're gonna look at 5 specific things that I personally have learned from reading body language. Hi there, friends. Thanks for stopping by my channel, where we focus on self-improvement, productivity, and work towards creating better versions of ourselves. I wanna start this video out by saying that if you're interested at all in learning about body language, I wanna say that anyone can learn this. I began learning it when I was very young. Well, I say very young, 14, 15, somewhere in there. If you want a little bit of a crash course video on it, I did make another one. I'll leave a link up here where you can check that out. Gives you kind of the basics of how to get started into it, and some pretty awesome resources that you can check out that you can begin teaching yourself these things at your own pace. I didn't realize this until recently, but up to 90% of communication is nonverbal. Now that does vary on the person, obviously, but it's just wild to think that we're constantly sending out these little messages of our thoughts and of our feelings and what our intentions are. So you can see how having this skill is something that's pretty incredible, and it really adds a lot to how you interpret life and conversations and your relationships. And the crazy thing is, we do this without realizing it, and we are always doing it. There's no scenario where you aren't communicating something. The first lesson that I've learned that we're gonna look at today is I often will deceive myself. I found that in certain situations, whether they're stressful or new, I'll catch myself doing a nonverbal that kind of takes me by surprise. For example, sometimes in a situation, I'll feel like I'm fine, and then I'll find myself doing an action that pretty clearly means that I'm upset or stressed or uncomfortable with the situation. And then after analyzing my situation a little bit more specifically and closer, I may realize that, I'm not on the best of terms with someone, or that someone is stressing me out. I think the biggest startling realization that this brought to me is how easily I can kind of deceive myself or think that something is fine, when in reality I'm very uncomfortable with it or not at all enjoying it. But I just kind of take on this mindset of well, this is fine, and so I just go with it, and I don't really stop to question actually how I'm feeling. It's kind of weird because I can actually sometimes live in a little bit of disillusionment, or I'll be somewhere, say, and I'll be like, oh, this is great, and then afterward I'm just really annoyed or wiped out or mad or whatever, and I'm like, why am I feeling this way? And if I had actually been paying attention to what I was feeling at that situation, I would have realized hey, that actually wasn't something that I was comfortable with, or whatever the case may be. Probably the biggest place I saw this was at a Bible school that I was at last year, where we would take a topic and flush it out and argue about it. And so it was really good for me to kind of learn to challenge what I'm feeling and be more aware, more conscious of how I'm interpreting my situation. The second thing that I learned is that there's always more that is unsaid. There's information that's always left on the table. So people will say things, and it's not like they're lying or anything. It's just that there's things that oftentimes they won't convey, or things that they're feeling that they won't necessarily say. Yeah, there's always information left on the table, and being able to reach out and grab that and interpret it is really powerful. And I'm not saying that people lie or anything. It's not like they say one thing but they mean another. Sometimes people will do that, but that's really hard to pick up on. Anyway, it's more like a situation where someone is talking to you and they'll keep the conversation going, but inwardly they really need to leave because they're late for a family meeting or something. I've seen this happen over and over, whether it's with someone that I'm talking to or whether it's with something that someone else is talking to, where I can look at the people talking, and I can clearly see that one person wants to leave, but they're too nice to just leave or just say hey, I gotta go. Whereas if the other person was aware and they were watching, they could see this person wants to leave. And yeah, it's like I said, there's always more that's unsaid that we're just not tapping into, and being able to tap into that is so cool. It sets you just a little bit higher in your awareness, and you're just a leg up on all your conversations. Reading body language has actually taught me a lot about responsibility, especially in conversation. Let's say that I'm having a conversation with someone and I can see that they are, say, uncomfortable. Now, there's a good chance that they're uncomfortable because of something that I'm doing, or something that I'm capable of changing. Maybe the conversation, maybe the location, maybe I'm standing too close. Whatever the case may be, it's pretty awesome to have that responsibility and to know kind of what's going on. It's then my responsibility to direct that conversation so that it's more comfortable and not so threatening. A fantastic example of this is my friend Kevin, who has a giant personal space bubble. And he'll tell you eventually. But it was just something that I was able to pick up on like right away. Like, oh, like he likes his space. He never really had to tell me, even like I did it on purpose to kind of annoy him sometimes. But there was times, like especially getting to know him right early on, it just kind of gave me a little bit more information to work with when I would relate to him, because I knew like, hey, like, you know, most people need this much space, he needs this much space. And before I give you the fourth lesson that I've learned, I just want to take a second to say thank you for clicking on this video. It's pretty awesome to see you guys here supporting me in whatever ways you choose to do that. Whether that's through a like or a comment, maybe a subscription, whatever you do, it really goes a long ways and it really, really helps me. So I would be completely remiss if I didn't take a second to stop and say thank you. The fourth lesson that I've learned is that people are blissfully unaware. Awareness is majorly lacking in our culture. If you learn to read body language, you will see this instantly. Like, there are so many examples of this where you'll just be like, how did you not see that? Like, clearly they meant this, or they wanted you to do that, and they're just like, what? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, it really honestly surprises me sometimes how unaware we can be of, especially in a conversation. Like, if you're talking to someone, how can you be so unaware to not notice that they're uncomfortable or that they don't like the conversation? Maybe they don't like you. I don't know what it is. We have a responsibility to be aware, especially in our relationships, to know what they're feeling and thinking and how we are affecting them. Obviously, we can't know all of that, but we can at least do our part and be aware of what's happening and what's going on. Like I said, I've seen this so much, and it's really frustrating sometimes, where people just lack very basic awareness of their situation. And it's not that they're like stupid or anything, it's that their minds aren't trained to think that way. And even something as simple as watching a video like this or reading the book by Navarro about body language is enough to trigger that part of your mind to be just a little bit more aware of things like that. And you'll begin picking up on them and noticing them. And it's really interesting how it does that, because it's not like, it's sort of like a switch gets flipped, but it also takes practice. And when you focus on something like that, like reading a book, for example, on body language, you're reading that book for a period of time, and so it's training your brain to think that way over the entire course of reading that book. And so then you'll find yourself being much more aware of things like that, whether that's just walking into a room and kind of knowing who to talk to, or whether you're talking to someone specific, whatever the case may be. It brings that awareness to social situations that is really, really awesome. The last lesson we're going to talk about is lesson number 5, which is you're only one step away. This comes from Brian Tracy, who says that you're only one step away from dramatically changing your life for the better. You just have to find it. It's such a cool mindset to have, because so take body language, for example. That's what this was for me. It was something pretty small that I learned. Like, it was a very small habit. Like, I didn't even really have much interest in it. My brother more or less was just like, you need to read this book. It's amazing. It'll change your life forever. And I've learned now that when my brother Reagan says that, I should probably read the book. Anyway, yeah, it was one of those things that was just, it was a very small, subtle little change in my life, but it has had a profound effect on how I live and how I operate. And it's pretty incredible to keep that in mind, because whatever the case may be, whether it's like researching something online, or maybe it's a book that I randomly see online that I, is recommended. Maybe that book teaches me one little thing that may seem insignificant, but will have a similar effect as this did for me, where it'll have a dramatic effect or a dramatic change over the course of my life. Like, maybe that's the case. And it's just giving me a different mindset on how to view things like, learning and self-improvement and productivity and YouTube videos or whatever. And that, like, just that mindset that you're only one step away, usually a pretty small step away from latching onto something that will, affect a large portion of your life. And that's just super cool. Like, that's a really, really fun mindset to have. It makes life very interesting and quite a bit more entertaining, honestly. And I guess maybe that's why I make videos like this, because it's like, maybe if I can encourage, one person to go read this book. In fact, I already have, which is kind of cool. Thank you, Jaren. To read this book and to, be affected by it. Or maybe it's a different book. Maybe it's, 168 Hours, or maybe it's, The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak, whatever the case may be. If I can convince one person to read that, and it like changes the way someone thinks, or has a little bit of a change in direction in their life that over the course of time makes for a large change for the better. Like, that's really, really exciting, and it gives me a lot of encouragement to keep making videos like this and to keep just pushing stuff out into the dark and seeing what kind of comes back. I've been putting out these videos for months on end and never really heard any feedback, and now it's slowly starting to trickle back in, and it's just really, really exciting. So yeah, there's just a little mini side trail of kind of what my vision is with all of this stuff. Like I said, if you want a little bit of a crash course in body language and a little bit of a look into what the book will teach you, it's called What Everybody Is Saying by Navarro. I will link the video up here again. Definitely check it out. It's not everything, obviously. It's a very small little sliver of what you'll learn in the book, but it'll give you a better idea, and it might show you like, hey, like maybe I do want to pursue this, maybe I don't. And yeah. So I hope you check that video out, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, there's a really good chance that while you're watching this video, you thought of someone else that might enjoy watching it as well. If that's the case, I would highly encourage you to share this video with them. If they choose not to watch it or they don't want to be interested in it, that's totally fine. That's on them, it's not on you. But it's worse yet if they don't even have the option to hear. So with that being said, as always, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next video.